All right, our second to last lesson here in this unit, and we're going to worry about dividing today, but you'll find that dividing may seem very similar with one extra step than what we did with multiplying. Write down today's goal, today's date, and today's page number in your notebook before moving on. All right, here are 4 problems that look pretty similar. There's stuff we've been doing last couple lessons. Go ahead and solve these. When you're done, come back and we'll see if you got the right answer. Because 7, 8, 9. So here are 4 problems, and here are the 4 answers. 5, 5 1/4, 10, and 2 3/4. And you'll see anytime I had an opportunity to cross simplify, I did. And the 3 times I did, it was because they were the same number diagonally. So they automatically became a 1. All right, let's get into our lesson today. So we have a new word, a very important vocabulary word today that helps us to understand how to divide fractions. So really what we're doing is we're dealing with reciprocals today, and reciprocals can help you divide by fractions. So 2 numbers are reciprocals of their product if your product is 1. Here's an example at the bottom. It says that we have 3/4 times 4/3. So what do you notice about the fraction of 3/4 and 4/3? One thing you'll notice is they're same numbers, 3 and 4. And the other thing that you'll notice is that they are flipped. So when you flip them, you actually cause the numbers to be equaling 1. And how do you get 1? Well, 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 twelfths equals 1 whole. So that's how you do the reciprocal. It's the multiplicative inverse is what a reciprocal is. And you're going to need to know that because that's how you're going to solve all of your problems in dividing. Write this down before you move on. All right, so the first example we're going to be doing with this video is we're going to be looking at finding the reciprocal so you can get some practice at doing what I'm expecting you to do. So, as you can see here, we have 1/9. So the real simple way to think about it is flip 1/9. That's all you have to do. So if we flip 1/9, we get 9/1. But we don't have to have the over 1 because you know whenever you have a number with the denominator 1, that makes it a whole number. So really 1/9 is equal to just 9 or 9/1. You could do both of those. Okay? You can write this down as an example in your notebook before moving on. All right, let's look at another one. Actually, we'll look at 2 here. So we have to find the reciprocal of 2/3. So all you got to do then is just flip the numerator and the denominator, and you get 3/2. Now, if you have a mixed number, the first thing you have to do is turn it into an improper fraction. So 3 times 5 is 15 plus 1 is 16/5. To find the reciprocal, now what we do is we flip these 2. So now 5 becomes the numerator and 16 becomes the denominator. So with mixed numbers, you have to turn them into an improper fraction and then flip them. So there's 2 more examples I encourage you to put in your notes. All right, here are 5 problems I want you to try on your own now, finding just the reciprocal of these. Come back when you got it done. Remember, you're just flipping your numerator and denominator. And here are the answers you should have gotten for the first 5 problems. So I think the trickiest one out of all these was probably number 5. You had to turn it into an improper fraction like I did, 13/5, and then flip those 2. All right, if you got all those right, find someone at the same table and give them a high five. All right, now on to the tricky stuff. So earlier we looked at 3/4 and 4/3 and how their relationship of a reciprocal works together. So if we were to switch the numerator and denominator of a fraction, you would find its reciprocal. So 3/4, flipping it is 4/3. We practiced that in example 1. Well, that's going to help us to understand how to divide because dividing by a number is the same as saying multiplying by its reciprocal. So here's an example. On the bottom we have 24 divided by 4. You know that 4 goes into 24 6 times. Well, dividing by 4, if we were to flip 4, remember 4 is 4 over 1. If we were to flip that and change the numerator and denominator, you get something like this. You also have to change from division to multiplication. That's why it says by its reciprocal. So you're taking the first number and you're doing nothing to it. You're just flipping the second number and then you're multiplying. 24 times 1/4 is also 6. It's basically our fact families of fractions. So if you think you need to write this down, go ahead. Otherwise, we're just going to move on from here. All right, we're going to start out with as easy of a problem as I can think of here to understand reciprocals and multiplying by the reciprocal. So the first thing you see with 8/7 is you go, well, 7's a whole number. We have to turn that into a mixed or improper fraction, 7 over 1. So when you rewrite 8/7 divided by 7 as you see there, you then have to rewrite the multiplication using the reciprocal. Now, remember, we're multiplying by the reciprocal. By the reciprocal would tell you that you're going to reciprocate the second number. So the second number gets flipped. Okay, flippy floppy is another way you'll hear me say it. So, as you can see, we took 8/7 divided by 7, and we then changed the division to multiplication, and we flipped 7 over 1 to be 1 over 7. Now all you do is the same exact thing we've done with all the other multiplications. 8 times 1 is 8. 7 times 7 is 49. And you get 8 49ths. So you actually end up with a smaller number than what you had to begin with. So copy this one down as an example before we move on. You may want to copy down the other examples too, because they're going to get progressively harder each time. Okay, here's our second problem where we have 5/6 divided by 2/3. The same thing, we're going to write 5/6 again. We don't change anything with the first number, but now we're going to change division to multiplication. The next thing is we have to flip-flop or find the reciprocal of 2/3. So just flip the 2 on the bottom and the 3 to the top. Okay? And then from here, you just multiply. So one thing you might notice before we multiply is that we do have a way we can cross-simplify 3 and 6. You could divide both of those by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now when we do this, we're still going to end up with 5 times 1 being 5, and 2 times 2 being 4. We still have a improper fraction. So remember, you have to see how many times 4 goes into 5, which is once, and we have a remainder of 1 over 4. So again, the only difference between this and multiplying is we have to change division to multiplication and flip-flop the second fraction. Again, copy this down. It may be helpful to copy all these. All right, we get a little harder now. A little bit harder now. A little bit harder. No, it's a little bit softer now. I don't know my songs very well. Okay, I digress. So when we both have mixed numbers here, the first thing we have to do is turn them improper. So 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11/4, divided by 12 times 1 is 12, plus 1 is 13/12. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to change this to multiplication, and we're going to flip-flop the second number. So 11/4 stays 11/4, 13 goes to the bottom now, and 12 goes to the top. Now, let's just solve. First, see if you can simplify. 11 and 13 are both primes, so we can't cross-simplify there. But 4 and 12 we can simplify because you can divide both by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 4 goes into 12 3 times. So 11 times 3 is 33. Well, not 11, 33. And 1 times 13 is 13. So now we have to see how many times 13 goes into 33 to get our simplest form answer. And we know that 13 goes in twice. That will go into 26. And we'll have to borrow here, make that 13. Our remainder is still going to be 13, but what is 13 minus 6? You should get 7, and that's your final answer, 2 and 7/13. So again, the only real trick here is you got to flip the second fraction once you've figured out its improper fraction. All right, so here we are, your turn to show me what you learned. Let's do the bottom numbers because I see it's got one of every example we've done so far. 10, 11, 12, and 13. Remember, you're going to have to flip the second number and change it to multiplying. Good luck. Woo! All right, so for number 10, I had 2/3 divided by 1/6. I flipped 1/6 to be 6 over 1, and I saw that you get 12/3. When I simplified, I noticed 3 goes into 12 evenly 4 times. For 11, I had to change 1 2/3 to 5/3. Then I flipped it to be 3/10 times 3/5, and I got 9/50. For 12, I had to change 1 1/7 to 8/7. Then I went ahead and flipped 1/4 times 7/8. I noticed the cross multiply, we had 7 and 7, so I changed those to 1s. And I was actually able to cross simplify 4 and 8, divide both of those by 4. Now, if you didn't do that, you'd still get a larger number that's half, and you'd be able to simplify it. And finally, for 13, I changed 4 to 4 over 1, divided by 7/8. Then I changed 7/8 to 8/7, so it's 4 over 1 times 8 over 7. And I just multiplied. I got 4 times 8 being 32, 1 times 7 being 7. And when I divided 7 into 32, it went in 4 times with a remainder of 4 over 7. Hopefully you got all the same answers I did. And we have 4 more problems up here that if you need extra practice, you and I can go through together if need be. All right, we are now on to our box of thought. Give me an answer to these 2 problems. And here is your final quiz. All 5 problems. First 2 are just finding the reciprocal. And remember, before multiplying 3, 4, and 5, you have to find the inverse of that second number. So you flip the second number. Good luck. And that's it for this lesson. If you have any other questions or need extra practice, make sure you see me so I can help you make sure you really understand this. All right, see you next time for our last lesson.